I hadn't even settled into the booth at the diner when he ended it. The place was buzzing, families chattering, the clink of silverware, and the faint hum of a jukebox playing some old country tune. The smell of bacon grease and maple syrup clung to the air. I'd barely slid onto the cracked vinyl seat when Ethan Carter looked up from his black coffee, steam curling from the mug, and said, "We gotta talk, Sarah." My heart sank like a stone. His voice was steady, too steady, like he'd practiced this. I sat down, my hands already clammy against the sticky tabletop. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Something about the venue?" He didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and set a small leather box on the table. Not to propose, but to undo one. "I can't marry you, Sarah," he said, each word a cold jab. I froze. "What?" I managed, my voice barely a whisper. He leaned back, like saying it out loud had unburdened him. "It's not you. We're just on different paths. I've been working with Lauren Prescott. She's got connections, big ones. Her dad's Richard Prescott, the guy who bankrolls half the tech firms in Silicon Valley. Our goals line up in ways I didn't expect." My pulse hammered. "You're dumping me for her?" I asked. "It's not like that," he said, but his eyes betrayed him. "This is better for both of us. You need someone less complicated." I stared, speechless, as the man I was set to marry in 2 weeks erased me without a flicker of doubt. Then he twisted the knife. "Also, the ring. It's been in my family for generations. My mom would lose it if it didn't stay with us." My hands shook as I slid it off and set it on the table. "Thanks for being straight with me," I said, voice tight, and stood. I walked out, past the counter with its spinning stools, past a family laughing over pancakes, past the waitress who glanced up from her order pad. I made it to the parking lot before the tears hit. I couldn't go back to the condo we shared. The sight of my half-packed suitcases, the wedding dress in its garment bag, it'd be too much. But when I got there, it was already done. My stuff was neatly packed in boxes by the door. Clothes, books, my toothbrush, like I was a package marked return to sender. Not Ethan's doing. He wouldn't have bothered. Probably his sister. I sank to the floor next to those boxes, time blurring. My old apartment lease was gone. I'd handed it off to a grad student weeks ago. My savings? Drained for the wedding. I had $87 in my account and 5 days until my next paycheck. So I did what I hadn't in years. I called my foster mom. Linda Brooks picked up on the second ring, her voice as warm as a quilt. "Sarah, sweetheart, I was just about to text you about those earrings we saw at the mall." I couldn't speak, just let out a choked sob. That was enough. An hour later, I was on her worn denim couch, clutching a mug of chamomile tea, while she ran her fingers through my hair, like I was 12 again, fresh from another foster home that didn't stick. Linda didn't pry. She just draped a crochet blanket over me and said, "You stay here as long as you need, hun. No pressure." Sleep didn't come that night. I lay on her creaky guest bed, staring at the popcorn ceiling, replaying Ethan's words, his calm, his certainty. Had I just been a stand-in until someone like Lauren Prescott came along? By morning, the sharp pain had settled into something heavier. Humiliation, maybe. I was 29, heartbroken, adrift, with no home of my own. Supposed to be starting a new life, not crashing back to square one. I dragged myself to the hospital for my shift, acting like nothing was wrong. Colleagues asked about the wedding. I smiled, lied, said it was delayed, that Ethan had a work trip. The truth would have gutted me all over again. But as I pulled on my scrubs and scanned my patient list, one thing was clear. I couldn't stay in this city, not with Ethan Carter and Lauren Prescott probably clinking wine glasses to their perfect future an hour away. 3 days crawled by. I went through the motions at work, keeping my heart from spilling out. I told people the wedding was on hold. I said I was fine. I said too much. On day 3, while I was adjusting an IV in room 12, my charge nurse, Carla, sharp-tongued and no-nonsense, stuck her head in. "You still dreaming of a ticket out of here?" she asked. I blinked. "What?" She pulled me into the hall, voice low. "You know Mia from Ortho? She took a private nursing gig, live-in, big money, but bailed last week. Couldn't deal with the patient." "Who's the patient?" I asked. Carla smirked. "Some tech billionaire, paraplegic, Lives out in Willow Ridge in one of those ridiculous mansions. Total pain to work for, but the pay's triple what you're making here. Comes with a private suite. Meals were included, no roommates, no night shifts, just one patient. I hesitated when Carla mentioned it. I'm not a live-in caregiver, I said, my voice sounding smaller than I meant it to. She snorted, folding her arms. Sarah, you're a nurse with 5 years under your belt. You're overqualified compared to the last 3 they hired. Trust me, this guy runs people off in a week flat. But you're tough as nails. That might just give you an edge. I almost laughed. Tough? I felt like a cracked eggshell, barely holding together after Ethan's betrayal. But that word, escape, lit something in me. Got a contact? I asked. 10 minutes later, she handed me a plain business card with a name scrawled in neat, precise handwriting. Linda Brooks, estate manager, and a phone number. I waited until midnight to call, standing on Linda's back porch, the chilly Montana air biting my knuckles as I gripped my phone. Linda answered on the first ring, her voice clipped but warm. This is Sarah Mitchell. I heard about a live-in nursing position. A beat of silence. Can you interview tomorrow at 8:30 a.m.? She asked. I swallowed. Yes. Bring your resume and references. I'll text the address. Be prompt. The line cut off. By 5 a.m., I was on a red-eye from Helena to San Francisco, then a bumpy shuttle winding up the cliffs of Willow Ridge. The world felt unreal, like I was chasing a mirage. Then I saw the house, a sleek fortress of glass and steel, perched like it was daring the ocean below to swallow it. The cab slowed at a wrought iron gate that hummed open, and my stomach twisted. I almost told the driver to turn back. Linda Brooks met me at the entrance. She was in her late 50s, wiry, with gray-streaked hair pulled into a tight bun and a navy blazer that looked ironed by God himself. Her eyes scanned me like a barcode. You're early, she said, not smiling. Didn't want to be late, I replied. Smart, come in. The interview was over in 15 minutes. She skimmed my resume, asked 3 sharp questions about my experience, and said, the job's yours, Miss Mitchell. Terms: 24/7 availability, 2 days off per month, no visitors. Medical expertise is critical. Discretion is absolute. Your patient is difficult. You'll have a private suite on the 3rd floor near his rooms. Meals and lodging included. Salaries $14,000 a month, plus bonuses tied to his progress. I gripped the chair to keep my jaw from dropping. That was quadruple my hospital pay. I had nothing but a beat-up suitcase and a heart still leaking from Ethan's exit, but I said, yes. No hesitation. Linda slid a manila folder across the table. Your contract. Review it by tomorrow. Your patient is Mr. Ryan Hale. The name didn't register then, but it would soon. The next morning, I stood outside his door. Contract signed, pulse hammering. The hallway was all smooth marble and muted light, like the house was holding its breath. Linda stood beside me, a tablet tucked under her arm. You sure about this? She asked, eyes still on the door. I signed the contract. That's not what I asked. I took a breath. I'm sure. She knocked once, then pushed the door open without waiting. The room was massive, all glass walls and cedar beams, sunlight spilling over polished oak floors and out to a view of crashing waves. It felt like a showroom for a life no one lived. Ryan Hale sat by the window in a sleek motorized wheelchair, his back to us. Mr. Hale, Linda said, voice like a gavel. Your new nurse, Sarah Mitchell. He didn't move at first, just kept staring out, fingers drumming the armrest. Then he turned, and I caught my breath. I'd pictured someone older, brittle. But Ryan Hale was maybe 34, broad-shouldered even in the chair, with close-cropped black hair and a face sharp enough to cut glass. His eyes, gray and piercing, carried a weariness that didn't match his age. He looked at me like I'd already failed some test. Another one, huh? He said, voice low and edged with acid. What's the bet, Linda? 5 days before she bolts? Linda didn't blink. I'll let you two get acquainted. She left, the door clicking shut like a trap. Silence stretched tight. I'm not here for bets, I said, meeting his gaze. I'm here to work. He rolled closer, studying me like I was a puzzle he didn't care to solve. Work? You mean handing out pills and pretending you care while I don't walk again? Medications, therapy, vitals, rehab support, I said evenly. That's the job. He smirked, bitter. You forgot the part where you pat my hand and tell me I'm brave. People love that part. I didn't flinch. I don't do pity. His brow twitched, just for a second. That's new. Most of them break by day 2. Maybe I'm not most of them, I shot back. He didn't respond, just watched me. The day was a gauntlet of clipped orders and barbed comments. I gave his meds, reviewed his therapy plan, checked his chart. Ryan tested me at every turn, snapping when I adjusted his chair, mocking my notes. I dealt with worse, ER patients cursing through pain, kids fighting IVs, families breaking down in hallways. He wasn't going to rattle me. That night, as I set up his room, he spoke out of nowhere. You're not what I thought. I paused, closing a drawer. And what did you think? You haven't asked about the accident. I shrugged. Figured you'd tell me if it mattered. He went quiet, then said, snowboarding, backcountry, took a drop too fast, hit a tree, woke up in a medevac. Haven't walked since. I nodded. Thanks for sharing. He stared, like he was waiting for me to say more. When I didn't, he asked, why this job? You don't strike me as desperate. I met his eyes. Because I know what it's like to have everything you planned ripped out from under you. Something flickered in his face, gone as fast as it came. Don't expect me to be your friend, he said, turning back to the window. I don't do warm and fuzzy. Good, I said. I'm not here for warm and fuzzy. He didn't reply, but he didn't kick me out either. On the 5th night, I couldn't sleep. The wind was screaming outside, rattling the glass like it wanted in. I got up to shut the curtains and noticed a light glowing from the West Wing gym, a space Ryan usually kept off limits. I told myself he'd left the TV on, but something gnawed at me, a nurse's instinct. I slipped on my shoes and headed down the hall. The gym door was cracked open, light spilling onto the polished floor. I pushed it wider and froze. Ryan was there, not in his chair, but on the floor, gripping a pull-up bar mounted to the wall. His face was slick with sweat, his arms trembling as he tried to haul himself up, legs limp beneath him. He didn't see me at first, too focused, grunting with effort. Then his grip slipped, and he hit the mat hard, cursing under his breath. Ryan, I rushed over, kneeling beside him. Are you hurt? His head snapped up, eyes blazing. Get out, he snarled. I don't need you gawking. I stayed put. You're not supposed to be in here alone. You could've. What? Fallen? He cut me off, voice venomous. Newsflash, Sarah. I'm already down. I took a breath, keeping my voice steady. Let me help you back to your chair. He glared, but his arms shook too much to argue. I slid an arm under his shoulders, supporting his weight as we maneuvered him back. His breathing was ragged, not just from the effort. Why are you doing this alone? I asked, once he was settled. He looked away, jaw tight. Because I'm not some helpless invalid who needs you hovering 24/7. I nodded, not rising to the bait. You want to train at night, fine, but you tell me, and I'm here. No falls, no risks. He stared at me, like he was trying to find the catch. Why do you care? He asked finally. Because it's my job, I said, and because I've seen what happens when people give up. He didn't respond, just wheeled toward the door, but as I followed, he muttered, Don't think this means I like you. I hid a smile. Wouldn't dream of it. I pulled on a hoodie and crept down the quiet hall, the marble cold under my socks. The gym door was ajar, a sliver of light cutting across the floor. I nudged it open just enough to peek inside, and what I saw stopped me cold. Ryan Hale wasn't in his chair. He was between a set of parallel bars, gripping them so hard his knuckles were white, sweat beading on his forehead. His legs, unsteady but moving, dragged forward in slow, deliberate steps. Every muscle in his arms and shoulders strained, his jaw clenched tight. He was standing, not fully, not without help, but fighting for every inch. My breath hitched. He didn't notice me at first, too locked in his battle with gravity. Then, the door creaked, and his head snapped toward me, eyes flashing from focus to fury. What the hell are you doing here? He growled, voice raw. I heard something, I said, stepping inside. I thought you might have. Get out, Sarah, now. His tone was a blade, but I didn't budge. Not because I was stuck, but because something in me had shifted. He wasn't broken. He wasn't done. He was hiding this, his progress, his fight. Why keep this a secret? I asked, keeping my voice soft. His grip tightened on the bars, sweat dripping onto the mat. Because the second people see this, they expect me to be fixed, to be the guy I was before. That's not how this works. His laugh was bitter, almost a cough. You know what's worse than failing? Watching everyone's hope turn to pity when you don't pull off a miracle. I stepped closer, careful, like I was approaching a cornered dog. So you act like you've given up instead? His jaw locked, eyes burning into mine, angry, but something else too. Doubt, maybe. You don't get it. Maybe I do, I said. I've had my life gutted too. I know what it's like to hide, so no one expects anything from you. His gaze held mine, searching for a lie. I didn't blink. I'm not telling anyone, I said. But if you let me help, really help, we can build on this. You don't have to do it alone. He stared, chest heaving, like he was waiting for the catch. I thought he'd snap again, tell me to leave, fire me on the spot. Instead, he eased himself back into the chair, movements slow, exhausted. Fine, he muttered, barely audible. But this stays between us. Nobody knows. Got it. And I call the shots. I say stop, we stop. I say go, you back me up. Deal. He studied me, eyes still sharp but softer, like a wall had cracked just enough to let light through. You're not like the others. I shrugged. I'm not trying to be. We started the next meeting before dawn, before Linda's coffee maker hummed to life or the ocean fog cleared outside. Each step Ryan took was a war, grueling, measured, like he was daring his body to betray him. I didn't cheer or hover, just steadied him when he needed it, one hand ready, the other taking notes. He didn't want a pep talk, and I didn't give one. We worked in silence, his focus a kind of fire I hadn't seen before. Then one afternoon, I heard a voice that didn't belong. It was deep, slick, too polished. Not Ryan's, not any of the house staff. I was restocking a med cabinet in my suite when it drifted through the walls. Curious, I followed it, moving quietly down the hall to the sunroom. There, sprawled on a leather sectional, was a man in his 40s, Rolex glinting on his wrist, swirling a glass of amber liquid that wasn't iced tea. Ryan, you look like you got hit by a truck, he said, chuckling. Ryan, across from him in his chair, gave a tight smile. Nice to see you too, Nathan. That was Nathan Cole, Ryan's business partner, the guy who'd taken the reins at Hale Tech Solutions after the accident, according to Linda. Something about him set my teeth on edge. Maybe the way he leaned back like he owned the room, or how his eyes sized Ryan up like he was a stock about to crash. When I walked in with a water pitcher, his gaze slid to me, slow and appraising. This the new nurse? He asked, smirking. Sarah Mitchell, I said, setting the pitcher down, my voice flat. She any good, or you burning through another one? Nathan said, sipping his drink. She's here to do her job, not play your games, Ryan said, his tone ice. The conversation shifted to business, acquisitions, boardroom politics, some defense contract. I tried to blend into the background, refilling glasses, but one word stopped me dead. Prescott. Nathan leaned forward, voice low. Lauren's dad is ready to greenlight the funding. We just need the equity transfer finalized. Prescott Ventures takes the lead, and we're golden. He's got pull with the industry council. Ryan didn't answer, just stared at the ocean beyond the glass, his knuckles white on the armrest. I've got the paperwork ready, Nathan pressed. Your signature, and it's done. I'll review it, Ryan said, voice clipped. Nathan's smile didn't reach his eyes. You've been saying that for a month. Windows closing, man. I slipped out before they noticed me lingering, my pulse hammering. Prescott. Lauren Prescott. The name was a knife in my gut, tied to Ethan, to the life I'd lost. And now Prescott Ventures was circling Ryan's company, pushing for control while he was still fighting to stand. Was Lauren part of this? Was Ethan? Had I stumbled into something bigger than a nursing gig? Or was I just the nobody they thought wouldn't notice? That night, as I helped Ryan with his leg stretches, I couldn't hold it in. Nathan, I said, keeping my tone neutral as I adjusted his brace. He's pushing you hard on that deal. Ryan's eyes flicked to mine, guarded. You were listening? Hard not to. Prescott Ventures, Lauren's dad. They're after your company, aren't they? He didn't answer right away, just flexed his fingers like he was gripping something invisible. "It's business," he said finally. "It's always business." "Doesn't sound like it's just business," I said, holding his gaze. "Sounds like they're counting on you staying down." His jaw tightened, but he didn't snap back. For the first time, I saw something like trust in his eyes. Not full, not yet, but a start. "You're too sharp for your own good," he said, almost a whisper. "Keep that to yourself, Sarah. And don't trust Nathan." I nodded, my mind racing. Whatever was happening, I wasn't just a nurse anymore. I was in this, whether I wanted to be or not. "There's something I heard today about your company," I said, keeping my voice steady as I adjusted Ryan's leg brace during his evening stretches. He didn't look at me, just kept his eyes on the ceiling, but his hands stilled. "Go on." I recounted everything, Nathan's words, his tone, the mention of Prescott Ventures. I even said Lauren Prescott's name. At that, he froze. "You know her?" "My ex-fiancé left me for her," I said, my throat tightening. "Ethan Carter." Ryan's eyes flicked to mine, sharp and searching. "Carter? Nathan's mentioned him. Some deal broker?" He wheeled back slightly, studying me. "You're saying my business partner and your ex are, what, in this together?" "I'm saying it's too convenient to be chance," I replied. He went quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like a storm gathering. "I'll look at the papers," he said finally, his voice flat. I wanted more, anger, agreement, something, but he shut down, like my words had hit a wall. That night, I paced my suite, the ocean's roar outside matching the churn in my head. Was I wrong? Was I chasing ghosts? Or worse, was I right and no one would care? The next morning, Ryan knocked on my door, something he'd never done. I opened it to find him in his chair, a thick folder in his lap, his face set like stone. "You were right," he said, no preamble. "Prescott Ventures isn't just funding. The contracts shift majority control to a shell company Nathan set up 3 months ago, buried in fine print." My pulse spiked. "They're trying to steal your company." He nodded, handing me the folder. "I need your help to stop them." I took it, my hands steady despite the weight. "You sure? After everything?" His eyes met mine, fierce. "They think I'm too broken to fight. They forgot who I was before I fell. We planned in secret, late into the nights when the mansion was still. The only sound, the faint crash of waves below. In the study, under the glow of a single lamp, we sat at a mahogany table, sifting through contracts, emails, bank records. Ryan's hands shook sometimes, from fatigue or fury, but his voice never wavered. He was rebuilding his strength, mental, physical, all of it, and I was his only ally in this fortress. He'd looped in his lawyer, a quiet bulldog named Claire, who was digging up every digital footprint Nathan had left. Ryan hid nothing from me, not even his regrets. "Nathan was there when I coded my first prototype," he said one night, staring at a spreadsheet. "He took meetings when I couldn't move, and now this." "You trusted your gut too late," I said, echoing his earlier words. "But you're not late now." He glanced at me, a ghost of a smile breaking through. "Don't let that go to your head, Mitchell." A week later, we were ready. Ryan let Nathan believe the signature was coming, even sent a polite email thanking him for handling things. That same morning, Ryan dressed for battle, a tailored charcoal suit, crisp and sharp, that made him look like the man who'd built an empire, not the one who'd nearly lost it. His body was still frail, but his posture, his focus, shifted the air. He practiced walking with a cane. 5 steps, then 10, then 20. Each one a defiance of the chair. "I want them to see me," he said, jaw tight. No rumors, no pity, just me. Board meeting was in a sleek downtown tower, all glass and steel, the kind of place that swallowed sound. We arrived early, Ryan moving beside me, cane tapping softly, each step deliberate. Heads turned as we crossed the lobby, whispers trailing us like smoke. In the boardroom, Nathan sat at the head of a polished table, Lauren Prescott beside him in a slate blue suit, her smile sharp as a blade. And there, next to her, was Ethan Carter. He looked diminished, still handsome but worn, like a suit that didn't fit quite right anymore. His eyes widened when he saw me, then flicked to Ryan, who was already halfway to the table. "You're walking," Nathan said, his voice caught between shock and something like fear. "Not perfectly," Ryan said, his tone calm but steel-edged, but enough. He didn't take the far seat. He walked, slow, steady to the head of the table, paused, and stared Nathan down. "This meeting's under my control now," he said, voice carrying like a gavel. He set a folder down, flipped it open, and began. One by one, he laid out the evidence. Hidden clauses, offshore accounts, emails tying Nathan to Prescott Ventures' shell company. The room was a vacuum, every board member frozen as Ryan exposed the plan to gut Caretaker Solutions. Lauren's face was a mask, unreadable. Ethan shifted, his hands fidgeting. Nathan's jaw worked, his color draining. "You can't prove intent," he stammered, voice thin. Ryan leaned forward, cane resting against the table. "I don't need to prove intent, Nathan. I've got your signatures, your emails, your shell company's bank trail. You thought I was too weak to notice." He turned to the board. Effective immediately, Nathan Cole is removed as acting CEO. All contracts with Prescott Ventures are void. I'm back and I'm not signing anything. The room erupted, questions, protests, Lauren's cool voice cutting through, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. Ethan avoided my eyes, his face a mix of guilt and panic. I stood behind Ryan, silent, my heart pounding but steady. He didn't need me to speak. He'd taken back what was his. But as we left the room, Nathan's glare burned into me, and I knew this wasn't over. That night, back at the mansion, Ryan sat by the window, suit jacket off, cane across his lap. "You didn't have to stick your neck out," he said, not looking at me. "You could have stayed out of it." I shrugged, setting his evening meds on the table. "I didn't sign up to watch you lose everything." He glanced at me, something new in his eyes. Respect, maybe, or trust. "Your trouble, Mitchell. Takes one to know one," I said, and for the first time, he laughed, a low, real sound that felt like a victory. "I don't need to prove intent," Ryan said, his voice steady, cutting through Nathan's weak protest. "I just proved breach of fiduciary duty. That's enough." The boardroom buzzed, chairs shifting, murmurs rising. The general counsel, a wiry woman named Claire, stood. "Mr. Hale, do you request an immediate vote of no confidence?" "I do," Ryan said, his cane planted like a flag. "Effective now." Chaos broke out. Lauren Prescott stood, her heels sharp against the floor, eyes cold. "You're making a mistake, Ryan," she said, voice like silk over steel. "You don't know who you're crossing." "I know exactly who," Ryan replied, softer but unyielding. "A woman banking on her father's name and a man who'd sell his own soul for a deal." He glanced at Ethan, who shrank in his seat. Lauren's lips twitched, a smirk that didn't land. "And your nurse? What, she's your partner now?" Ryan turned to me, standing just behind him. "She's the reason I'm here at all." Ethan's eyes flicked away, his face tight with something like shame. The board voted, unanimous. Nathan was out. Prescott Ventures contracts were voided. Caretaker Solutions was Ryan's again. As the room emptied, Lauren's heels echoed out, Ethan trailing her like a shadow. Nathan lingered, his glare venomous, but he said nothing. He didn't need to, he'd lost. We stayed behind, just Ryan and me, the glass walls reflecting the city skyline. He leaned on his cane, breathing hard, but his eyes were alive, bright in a way I hadn't seen before. "You did it," I said, voice low. He shook his head. "No, Sarah, we did." And then for a moment, he smiled, a real, unguarded smile that cracked something open in me. I realized I'd taken my own steps that day too, away from the woman who'd walked into that diner months ago, broken and lost. Weeks passed, and the mansion shed its cold edges. Windows stayed open, letting in the salt air. The garden, once choked with weeds, bloomed under new care. Ryan still had rough days. Pain flared, his steps faltered. But the sharp bitterness that used to cling to him was fading. So was mine. I stopped replaying Ethan's words, stopped mourning the wedding that never was. The name I'd almost taken, Carter, felt like a coat I'd outgrown. I started running again, short loops on the trail behind the house, the ocean breeze stinging my face. I read novels on the patio. I laughed without checking myself. I was more than someone's discard. Ryan insisted on cooking once a week, a ritual that was equal parts comedy and chaos. He'd curse at the stove when the rice stuck, brandishing a spatula like it had personally betrayed him. I'd perch on the kitchen island, feet tucked under me, grinning as he muttered about culinary sabotage. One night he slid me a plate of something vaguely pasta-like and said, "If this poisons you, I'm not liable." "You'll inherit my running shoes," I deadpanned, taking a bite. He paused, fork halfway to his mouth. Actually, no. I looked up, curious. I put the company in a trust, he said, his voice softer. And you're in it. I blinked, fork frozen. What? Not the whole thing, he clarified, a faint smile tugging at his lips. But I built something better with you than I ever did with Nathan or anyone else. I want you part of what's next. I stared, my chest tight, not with fear, but with something warmer, steadier. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver box. Before you say anything, he said quickly, this isn't a demand, no timeline, no pressure. I'm still figuring out how to be me again, and I know this wasn't your plan. He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple white gold, with a single emerald glinting in the light. But I'm asking anyway, he said, voice low. Will you think about walking this road with me? Not because I need you to fix me, but because you make me remember who I am. I didn't cry, though I thought I might. Instead, a quiet settled over me, like I'd stepped out of a storm and found solid ground. I took the ring, slid it on, and felt its weight. Light, but real. I'm not saying yes, I said, smiling, but I'm not saying no. He laughed, a low, warm sound that felt like home. That's you all right. We didn't rush. No announcements, no fanfare, just more mornings, more steps. Ryan hit half a mile unaided by September. I passed my certification to start a private nursing practice, hiring 2 assistants to split the load at the mansion. It wasn't just Ryan's house anymore. It felt like ours, a space we were building together. Ethan texted once, a hesitant, "You okay?" I deleted it without answering. He didn't get to check on me anymore. That heartbreak had done its job. It led me here, to a life I hadn't dared dream of. By Ryan's birthday in October, he was off the chair completely. We took a weekend trip up the coast, just the 2 of us. We walked along the beach at dusk, sand gritty under our feet, the wind sharp and cold. He moved slowly, cane left behind, his hand brushing mine as we went. At one point, he stopped, staring out at the waves. You think we'll ever go back to who we were before? He asked, voice quiet. I shook my head. I hope not. He turned to me, waiting. Because who we are now, I said, is better. He didn't reply, just took my hand, his fingers warm and steady. We stood there, the ocean endless before us, and for the first time, I didn't feel like I was running from anything. I was exactly where I was meant to be.